we can get better at our instruments, we can write better songs, but if we can't take care of each other and, look after the relationships between the four of us, then we know the thing can't survive without any one of us.
When they're actually at the concerts, they're powering your shows, and kind of the energy from their movement creates the energy of your show.
We've had so many wonderful testimonies of people saying, this was I'd never thought that I would get to go to a concert and actually feel it. We have one person who really wants to be the singer and 3 people who really don't want to be the singer.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Intersections, which is Northeastern's program that we are launching this year just for students like you. And Intersections is a program that brings together our students, our alumni, parents, other members of the Northeastern community for really fun and interesting and provocative conversations. So we're thrilled for tonight's conversation, which is going to focus on the intersections between music and creativity, art and sustainability, AI and human agency, and of course, social impact. And I'm really proud this evening also to be joined by Calypso Newman, who is going to be leading the conversation with our special guest. Calypso is a 2021 graduate with a degree in art history. She is the recipient of a Women Who Empower Innovator Award for her work with Rock Badger, which uses data, technology, and art to create visual storytelling. And you may have seen some of her images as you came into the room. Calypso, I know you can't wait to get into this conversation, but first I want to introduce our featured guest tonight, and I think the reason you're all here. So, Will Champion, you are a member of one of the best-selling music acts of all time, over 100 million records sold, 7-time Grammy Award winner, 7-time VMA award winner, most awarded, most nominated group of all time for the Brit Awards with 9 wins. And I don't know how many people know this, you were even featured on an episode of Game of Thrones.
That's right, yeah.
Any Game of Thrones fans? Yes, I think the Red Wedding episode.
That's the one.
That's the one. And you've said, just to start out, you've said that education is really important to you. You come from a family of educators. And can you just tell us a little bit about your background? You grew up playing instruments, but I suspect that maybe you were thinking of yourself as an archaeologist or an anthropologist rather than global rock star?
Well, I'm not sure that I thought about myself in any capacity that much. I think when you're young, you have lots of ideas about things that you might want to do. But briefly, my parents were both archaeologists, professors, and lecturers in archaeology at the University of Southampton, and so we grew up around that building. I think I did some of my first work experience jobs. There was a theatre there on campus, which I worked in the box office, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I think that's something that stayed with me, and I think perhaps not knowing sometimes is really can be helpful, because it keeps your antennae open for different opportunities, some things that maybe would be shut down if you were super focused. So I definitely my dad will testify that I was never super focused. So I think, yes, I studied for my A-levels here in the UK, and then got a place at UCL here in London to study anthropology. So my elder brother was an ancient historian, my parents were archaeologists. So I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, at least initially. And then, but it was at UCL that I met the guys who would become my best friends and my bandmates, who we've been together now for nearly 30 years.
Really, that's amazing, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But so you're at university, you're studying anthropology, and at the same time you're working the door at a nightclub.
Yeah.
And I guess you probably learn a lot about human behavior.
You do?
I
think that's anthropology as well,
right,
ultimately,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah, so just tried lots of different jobs to try and help pay for my education. But really it was towards the end of our first year that we started to write music together, and it was around the time of, I think, just before Christmas of our second year, '98. Christmas '97, it would have been going into '98. We started properly rehearsing together, and then we're lucky to have grown up in London, or have as a band grown up in London, because there's so many opportunities to play music here, and most of it was centered around Camden, where we lived, which you have a connection to as well, don't you? Yeah. We went to watch another friend's band, and I got the number for the promoter and asked for if we could have a show, and he said, "Yep. How many songs have you got?" And we said, "We haven't got any yet." But and he said, "Well, if you can bring." In those days, it was about how many people you could bring with you, so that I guess they could sell more drinks. So we said we guarantee we can bring 150 people, because we just fly at everyone we knew at university, and we wrote 6 songs, and we rehearsed them every night for however long it was before that first show, and then first show happened, second show happened, and things kind of spiraled from there. And by the end of, I think we'd signed our record deal by the May of our 3rd year in '99, and then we did our finals in that following month, knowing that as soon as we finished, we were going out to tour and record and see what the world had in store for us.
Well, we always tell students that you may meet your best friends that you'll have for life when you are at university. And you just mentioned that for 30 years these have been your best friends. But surely there must have been, along the way, you've thought, oh gosh, we've grown up together. We know one another's strengths, but also what irritates us about one another. How have you had that longevity? Not just as friends, but as as colleagues and as co-creators.
Good question. I think it's a mix of things. The sorts of things that you can't really engineer are the way that the sort of chemistry between people. Generally, when you're starting a band, often it happens that someone is the leader, and then, or maybe there's a couple of them, and then they have to draft people in order to play various instruments. But I think for us, and one of the great things about British music, I think traditionally has been the strength of our bands. I think more so than, I guess, in the States, there's much more of a history of singer-songwriters and solo artists who recruit band members, and the biggest artists were all in that fashion. But in the UK, it was always about bands: the Beatles, the Stones, the Sex Pistols. So these are groups of people who were friends and who, to some extent, struggled with their instruments and it wasn't about proficiency. It was about chemistry and friendship and the relationships between the members. So I think that's really, we're lucky that we have one person who really wants to be the singer and 3 people who really don't want to be the singer. And I think that's really key. Quite often you have 2 people that want to be the main person, or sometimes 3, and that can be a difficult thing to resolve. We're very lucky in that we got a lot of our disagreements and arguments out the way very early on, and we had that first year that we were finished university and were out in the world trying to make sense of it all. It was really difficult, and we sort of reached a limit in a way of our sort of a ceiling of what, because we didn't really know what we were doing. We had no one really telling us what we should and shouldn't do. So I think that was a difficult period, and we had a lot of discussions, and some were quite combustible. Others were a bit more sort of civil. Ultimately, I feel really lucky now to be in a position where we've had such a long time together, and it's like any relationship, really. I think the harder you work on not just the product of what it is you're trying to do, but also the relationships between the people involved. I think that's something that changed in around 2005, 2006 for us, when our trajectory was getting really quite steep, and we were struggling. I think we didn't really know how to behave or what to do, and so we decided that we needed to kind of take it back to where we started. So we bought a little studio in Camden. It just meant that we could go in there it's like a clubhouse essentially. We could go in there any time of day, and we just went back to being the 4 of us, because it just got so bloated and so unwieldy and not much fun. So going back to being the 4 of us in a gang in a little room, like we used to rehearse in Johnny's bedroom in a probably a room not much bigger than where these 2 tables are, sitting on the bed, drum kit under the window. So it was just taking it back to that relationship And that's really the lesson that we learned at that point, is that we can get better at our instruments, we can write better songs, but if we can't take care of each other and, you know, look after the relationships between the four of us, then we know that the thing can't survive without any one of us. So it's about putting that first, and everything else will take care of itself.
I promised that I'd ask this because we've read different things.
Okay.
I thought that I had read that you had, as a child, played a variety of instruments, including the drums, but other places it said that you hadn't played the drums before.
I had sat at some drums through. I actually tried out for drum lessons at my secondary school. They had auditions to see if it was going to be a viable use of teacher time, and I didn't pass that audition. I was told that, no, try next year, and so I was always tapping, though, one of those irritating children who's always banging on things and making a noise. I played piano, violin, guitar, and other things that my mum had taught me. I think it's really influenced the way that I play the drums now, in that I am not very technical. I prefer listening to songs rather than drums. I'm not a drummer, if you know what I mean. Growing up playing loads of different instruments allowed me to hear the whole, rather than, I think drummers are quite notorious for wanting to play faster and louder and dominate. And my version of a successful song is if I don't play for the first 4 minutes and then just the last few bars, bit of impact at the end, perfect. So I look at it more as punctuation rather than the big broad strokes. So I think that's influenced the way that I ended up playing. So I did play a little bit, but then really nothing until my friends, we were all friends, they had recorded 3 tracks of a 4-track to send to some radio stations, and they needed some drums, and my flatmate had some drums, so he set them all up, and we set the mics up, and then he went to the pub and didn't come back. And then another friend was staying with us who was the drummer in my other flatmate's band, and he played on one of the tracks, but then he had to go. And so there was one song that needed drums on, and I just said, well, I'll try. And I was literally the last chicken in the shop, as it were, the last possible viable option to play on that song. And thank goodness I did. And that was the start of and that's why I'm here now. So thank goodness for that.
Coldplay donates 10% of all profits to charity, and I understand that's a practice that you've had really since the very beginning, since your debut album. And so clearly, giving back, social responsibility, social impact is something that is extremely important to you. It's inspiring to all of us, I think, especially for our students to hear about that. And so I want to turn it now to Calypso to talk a little bit more about your work in sustainability, and also I think we want to talk a little bit about technology, AI, and creativity, and then we'll open it up.
All right.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to talk to you about sustainability, because what you and Coldplay are doing in terms of sustainability and touring is just completely innovative. No one has done it before in the same way or scale or with the same optimism and energy. You've literally got fans powering your shows, and it's just fantastic to see. What was the moment that you and the band decided to take sustainability really seriously and to use your platform to create this incredible impact?
We were all hyper aware of the sort of move towards making things sustainable, more sustainable, and also hyper aware of the fact that our industry, it's quite, when the bones of it are pretty eco-hostile. There's lots of equipment that needs to travel around the world. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people moving around. And we did an album in 2018 and recorded it in Amman in Jordan in 2019. And at the very end of that, we knew that we were going on a little break. And it was sort of just preceded the whole COVID pandemic, which ground everything to a halt in our business. So I think we just felt that was there was a moment where we could, first of all, take some time to really do something meaningful, and not for it to be just tokenistic. And really, actually, the COVID pandemic was, we hadn't planned to tour during that time, but it allowed us to really dig into a lot of the things that are now that you now see are really working. And it was a slightly serendipitous that came around at that time, but the motivation was just to think, well, we've always done work with different partners, from Oxfam and Amnesty and Campaign to Make Trade Fair, and lots of things that we wanted to lend our support to. But this thing really felt like, okay, this could be our thing. And as Diane mentioned, we always put, from our very first record deal, we put 10% of everything away to donate or to use for causes that we really believed in. So it was really that moment, and the pandemic allowed us to really find partners that could help us achieve what we wanted to do. And it's a long battle at times. When you are leading the way, I suppose you're going to get a lot of misses as well as hits, things that work and things that really don't, or things that maybe become things that draw people in. We use this idea of music a lot as well. Sometimes you want something that is like a hook in a way, in terms of a song, something that draws people into the deeper bits of the album, or whatever it is you're trying to do. And so there are some of these initiatives that are really, we knew would be sort of eye-catching and would make people engage. And then, because a lot of the nuts and bolts isn't that sexy sometimes, it's a bit absolutely going through every single decision that you make with a fine-tooth comb and thinking, how can we make this better? How can we make this better? How can we, every single element of a tour went through that filter, and that's time-consuming, and a lot of it isn't particularly doesn't grab headlines. So it's just trying to find those little stories that make people listen and engage, and also knowing that if you put your head above the parapet, you're going to get some flack. And of course, I think one of the important things that we learned is that to be completely open and honest and not promise things that we can't deliver, and also to allow people that this is work that we've done. We want everyone to use it and build on it. It's not something nothing's proprietary. We're not preventing anyone else from doing it. We just raise the whole level of what we're doing, and everyone can benefit from it. And more people that do it, the cheaper it gets. And we can, we don't have to pass that on to the people who are buying tickets. So it's something that we're so proud of, because it's really meaningful, and I think it ties into the work that you're doing, is that we're trying to make it fun. You're trying to find positive stories and trying to convince people that actually the way to solve it is by making things fun and accessible and enjoyable, and the solutions that come from that, they're much more long lasting.
Absolutely. And you can so see the thought that has gone into these initiatives. And what I think is really unique about what you're doing with Coldplay is the role that fans actually have, and the sense that they're at the heart of sustainability. You're almost giving fans the power to, not just with the purchase of their ticket where one tree is planted, but when they're actually at the concerts, they're powering your shows, and kind of the energy from their movement creates the energy of your show. And I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of creativity when it comes to sustainability.
Well, I think that, kind of what I was just saying, touching on earlier, is that trying to make things fun. And we've always said that as we play in these big stadiums, and it is so much fun what we do, and I'm so lucky to be able to say that. But we recognize that the best bit of the show is the audience there, and in those big environments when you have 85,000 people coming together with a common goal of having fun and having a nice time, that is such a powerful thing. And in a way, that's the most important thing to kind of harness that sort of positivity. And I think then we try and channel that into these sustainable goals and things that, like I said, every bit of the tour, every single element that is involved, of which there are potentially millions, go through this. How can it be more sustainable, and how can it contribute to more people having fun? And I think that's ultimately what it's all about, and also connecting people. I think we have this app that can encourage people that come to our shows to transport share, and you can win stuff by doing good things, essentially, and that sort of motivating, rather than penalizing bad behavior, motivating good behaviors, good sustainable behaviors and patterns. So it's kind of fun. We're really lucky because we really enjoy what we do, both on stage, but also coming up with ideas. And it's a good lesson. Sometimes we come up with an idea and you can see the managers going, oh no, come on. People start saying, no, we can't do that, we can't do that. And you said, yeah, but you said that about the wristbands and look what happened. You said that about this. So we're trying to challenge people to say, yes, obviously it might be expensive, but again, we're lucky that we've created a business that can handle it now, and we wanted it to be able to scale down and trickle down so anyone can use any of the technologies that we're trying to promote.
And another area where you're really innovating with making your shows more accessible, and I was reading about it today, and it's the sub packs. It's enabling fans who are hard of hearing or deaf to feel the sound and the music. And it's another area which I'm totally fascinated by. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, those things are amazing, and it's part of a larger package of stuff that we try and do, because you hope that when you start playing music, you want as many people to hear it as possible, really. Or to experience it, I should say, because there are many people who traditionally would feel left out, or that a big stadium show like that is not possible for them to watch or to attend. So people who are have poor sight, or people who are hard of hearing, or people who get have extreme sensitivity to various things. So we have done a lot of work with a bunch of really interesting people to provide sensory rooms for people. We provide these pre-show touch tours for the people who have poor sight, so they can walk around, and the whole stage there is a really, it just becomes, it's a way for them to engage with. They can obviously, these folks can hear, but they can't see what's happening. They can't see the lights, and so we just try and give them a physical sense of what's happening. And there's always a sign language person who is doing sign language in the local sign language, because there's many different versions of sign language, as we've discovered. There's a moment actually when Chris does a signing section in the song, and he's had to learn that song in about 8 different sign languages. So, but then also these sub packs. So these are the incredible things. Similar to I have a drum stool that has it's called a thumper inside. So you can basically feed low frequencies into it, and you can feel it. I can feel the kick drum through my body, and it's essentially the same thing. We are feeding sub frequencies and music through these sub packs that people are wearing, and they can feel the music. To a certain extent, you can feel the music coming from the PA anyway, because it's sound waves, and it's but it's a really fine signal. And as you're saying, it's like the haptic technology, so it's really resonating through people's bodies, and that is just an amazing thing to see. When we've had so many wonderful testimonies of people saying, I'd never thought that I would get to go to a concert and actually feel it, and so that's been really an amazing part. And we have worked with some incredible people, and we have a section of our management team who are specifically all about accessibility, and how can we make sure that, first of all, tickets go to the right people. Again, I'm sure you all know about the ticket scams that are happening, and scalpers and secondary ticketing markets. It's really hard for people to come to a show. We keep our tickets as cheap as possible, cheaper than everyone else's. That's the most important thing. And also we do these things called infinity tickets, where we, the last minute, pairs of tickets are released for $20, and it could be anywhere in the stadium. It could be somewhere up in the nosebleeds, or it could be front and center. It could be the best ticket in the house. Again, trying to make it available to as many people as possible, because that's what we're in the business of. We want to play to people. We don't want to exclude anyone from coming to our shows, no matter if they have any physical issues, or it doesn't matter to us. It's about collecting as many people in the same place at the same time to have fun.
It's amazing. And I think as well, you're using, and I'm going to bring up AI, you're using AI out of your shows to increase accessibility and connection. And A Film for the Future was just such a powerful example of how AI can increase our connection with music, but also on an individual level. And I'd love you to share the project.
But again, it's a film that we sent snippets of the songs from the new record out to hundreds of different directors and content creators, and just tried to get as many different takes on how people responded to that music, and then weave it all together in an amazing sort of patchwork. The AI was used to sort of stitch it together in parts. Lots of the content was created by people using AI-assisted creation tools, I guess. But I'm interested in how AI affects our business very much. It's quite contentious in our by the way that lots of these large language models learn, but also, weirdly, it's not dissimilar to the way that that music is learnt. No one ever sets out to copy things, I don't think, or maybe people do, I don't know. But we all learn. Music is all around us, and I think, like anything, if there can be sensible applications that respect the human creation, the human content that's been created, then I can see that there are amazing applications for AI in music. I just think it's such a new technology, isn't it? And especially in our business, I think there's a lot of very careful thought that needs to happen about how we protect sort of human creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I thought when I saw A Film for the Future was it was so clever because you were using AI to let me or your other audience as a fan have a unique moment and connection with the Moon Music album based on how I felt. And I think everything almost comes back to this moment of connecting with music, of connecting with sustainability, and now with AI, having that unique one-on-one connection. And I think used thoughtfully like that, it's such an interesting use case. And I thought it was super innovative.
Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you.
And Calypso, right now, no two fan remixes are alike.
Absolutely. So based on your unique emotions when connecting with a song, it's just so clever.
But it's funny, we work with quite often with a guy called Brian Eno. I don't know if you probably know him, and maybe you guys have. He's a sort of legendary wizard of music that people go to when they're struggling for artistic inspiration. But he is such an interesting thinker. He made a film recently, and again, it was slightly different. It wasn't AI, but it was something that we knew about and something that he spoke to us about. And he's done a lot of work on generative music that you set parameters for it and it creates itself. But he made this amazing film about his life that was there. I think there are something like 58 million different versions of that film, depending on just a little bit of code. And every time you see it, it's different. And there may be bits in it that he'll never see. I think that kind of thing, when it's done in that sort of playful, inquisitive way, I think it's really powerful.
Great. Well, we think we will now open it up to the audience.
Hello.
Hey.
I have a question revolving the creative side of Coldplay.
Yep.
So, as a band, how challenging would you guys say the process of coming up with a track list or like the lead single of an album? How challenging would you say that process is?
Good question. It depends, really. There are certain albums that we have written tend to the way that you build an album, certainly in our experience, is that certain songs come along and they act like sort of tent poles for the whole thing, and so there are sort of tent poles or foundation stones, and so quite often it's very clear. Maybe not what order songs might come out in, but it's very clear that there's 2 or 3 that are. This is definitely going to be a single. This is the one that we need to come out with. This is the first, this, or maybe this is a bit more of a second single. Often those things are quite clear. But I think we always have a sort of a picture in our heads about how we want the trajectory of the songs to go. Obviously there's just so much data involved, and it can be very easy to, as I guess we've all sort of experienced that, you feel like when you're watching a film, you think like, I don't know if a human's been involved in commissioning this film. It feels like someone's just sort of, it's an algorithm that has designed this because of data points. And we try and avoid that. We will try and go with something that feels like a real human connection. But it's very easy, to look at, well, you can see that all the fast number ones have been at 112 BPM, so we need to make something that's 112, or this kind of beat is popular now, or songs in E flat are doing really well. That's kind of, there's so much data that you could easily get lost in it all, and I think we try and avoid that. So most often it's very clear. Occasionally we have disagreements, and every so often we feel like we got it wrong, but not too often. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is about your accessibility initiatives. I think they're really unique and very innovative, and
Thank you.
you're the first to do it, of course.
Thank you.
And I was wondering, you and members of your band aren't impaired in the same way that your target audience for those initiatives are. So how do you go about, how do you come up with those things and make these new ideas?
Great question. Well, I think if we have an idea, if we feel like there's something, there's an area that we haven't approached, or that needs some kind of solution, or some kind of an idea, I think the most important thing is obviously to talk to the people who will benefit from it. It's very easy to get sort of come from this kind of top-down idea of, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, it's more important to find out what's meaningful for the people who might benefit from it. So I think, and also we're in the fortunate position now where people come to us with great ideas, and that's really when you're open to things coming to you, and people come and say, I've got this idea, can you help me? Or we think it could really help. That's how the wristbands came about, actually. There was a guy who was a toy manufacturer, and he was watching one of our shows in it was Glastonbury 2005, and he was in the field, and it was when lots of people were still smoking then, so it was all about lighters. It was lighters in the air. It was sort of, the mobile phones didn't have torches on in those days. So it was all about lighters, and he had this idea during the song Fix You. He was like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if I could come up with something that everyone had, and I could turn it on at a specific moment. So he went and designed it, and we didn't know him at the time, but we did a Christmas show in Liverpool, and he was waiting outside our dressing room. It was snowing, I remember, and he said, I've got this idea. And we invited him in, and we had a chat about it. And at the time, it was only possible to do it with a time code, essentially. Each individual unit had to be programmed with a little key, and obviously that's quite limiting. But we did do it. We used that technology for the first time. It was a live broadcast in a bull ring in Spain, and he and his family, this guy Jason, had individually programmed 15,000 of them. They'd sat, him and his kids. It's terrible. I feel like sort of using child labor to power the show. But they did 15,000 of them, and we knew that they were all gonna go off at 9:01 to the second. And so musicians, we're not always known for being on time, put it that way. So, but this show, there was no, because we wanted it to coincide with the first bar of music as we came on stage. And so it was literally, we had one of these nuclear clocks that was like, this has got to be right. And so it worked, and that was a brilliant moment. But then the key came when we gave Jason a bunch of money and said, this is great. It needs to work with RF, it needs to work with radio frequency so we can control it more easily. So then we helped him to finance that, and then it kind of grew from there. And then they just got better and better and better. So I think working with people, being open to ideas that other people have, and not feeling like it's all going to come from you, because I think that's the sort of spirit of collaboration that we like. And so many of the great ideas that we've seen and that are on our sort of sustainability drive are things that people have brought to us, and we are very grateful for their help and their advice, and we obviously make sure we credit them with that respect. So it's just about being open and to accept amazing people.
Hello, good
Hi.
evening to you all. My question is for Will, and it's about your work-life balance.
Oh.
How did you balance your hobby and love and passion of music while you were at UCL studying anthropology? And are there any strategies that you still use now? And how does your work-life balance look now with you having a family?
Yeah, my work-life balance right now is amazing because I've just finished a 4-year tour, and now it's very much in harmony again. In fact, it's a life balance. It's not a work-life balance, just life at the moment, which is great. I don't know what your timetable looks like. In my first year, anthropology there weren't that many contact hours, let's say. I think I had 12 hours of scheduled lectures a week, and Johnny was doing maths and astronomy, so he had loads. In fact, I was doing chemical engineering. He had even more. Chris and I didn't have that many, so we would do what we needed to do. We would attend our lectures, but then I would say pretty much every night we would go and rehearse in their flat in Johnny's bedroom. So it really, we were so excited. I think when you're young, you can survive on very little sleep. You can survive on excitement and energy, and that's really what it was. We were every step of the way. Songs were coming. It was just so exciting. For me, I made sure I went to all my lectures. My parents said, definitely go for this, but make sure you get your degree because you never know what might happen, which is very sage advice. It was never too much of a problem. I don't know whether it's the same these days. Also, in my day, it was free. A university was free, so I know. Can you imagine? I know, it's amazing, and I think we were so lucky. Yeah, so I think that I just felt really lucky to be there. So I worked hard, but then we played a lot. Basically every night of the week, I would say. We didn't do much else. You can call it a balance of sorts, but it was more just doing what we loved and doing what we needed to do. Hi.
I think Coldplay has done a really excellent job at kind of adapting to a changing musical environment. How has your personal outlook towards music and how it's changing evolved over the years?
Wow. I mean, it's changed. It's unrecognizable, really, actually, the music business and the industry from when we started. I think we were lucky in a way that we were the sort of last band through the door in the old way of doing things, which was where a record company traditionally would give you some money. They would hear you play some songs and they'd think, you might be good one day, as opposed to now, where you can't do anything without being the fully finished product, and that is obviously a result of incredible leaps in technology, and you can make music with just a laptop these days in your bedroom, professional grade, sounding incredible. You can make visuals that look incredible, but that pressure to be fully formed, I think it's hard. It must be so hard. We wouldn't have got anywhere near where we are now if we were starting now. We wouldn't have got. The algorithm would have kind of squeezed us out very quickly. So I think we were lucky that we were able to to. Someone said, "Yeah, we think that you might be good at some point, and we're willing to give you some money to go and do it professionally, to go and spend some time and figure out what you want to sound like." And that's a luxury that isn't given to people these days. So I feel grateful that we had that opportunity. But I think it has changed so much, and I think there's just so much music out there, which is amazing. And there's never been easier to find bands and to discover new music, which is wonderful. And it's meant a huge deal to lots of people struggling musicians who might find it hard to get any kind of exposure. But at the same time, breaking through that level of noise, is so difficult. And what we've noticed now is that getting anything to stick is very difficult. We're so interested in wanting the next thing that maybe I think it's really hard to get things that sustain, and that's why touring has been really important for us, because creating those memories of real people connecting with each other in stadiums like that's a memory that that isn't easily replaceable. It's not something that you can just go and get another one in, or you can just swipe if you don't like it. It's a commitment to to something really meaningful. And so I think we've been lucky in that respect. So for us, it's changed in that we really rely on our live show to create lasting connections with people, whereas it's harder to do that with just recorded music, I would say. Good question.
Hi, Will.
Hello.
I'm Rika, and I'm really honored to speak to you today.
Likewise.
So I'm learning to produce as a DJ, and I was wondering if you have any places to recommend, like during your time at uni, like where did you get your inspiration to make such amazing songs?
Oh, that's very kind. Most of them are probably closed now, I suspect. I'm sorry to say, because we lived in Camden, there was just live music all the time. It was weird in our halls. So we all met. We were all in the same hall of residence. There were so many other musicians as well. Weirdly, I don't know what it was. Something about that year. There were about 8 different bands that were formed in that hall, and we were just really supportive of each other. We'd go out and watch each other's gigs, and there were people who got played on radio, and there was just a really thriving scene. And so I think we would go out. There was a lot of sort of indie discos in scuzzy pubs in Camden, which were just brilliant. London is an amazing city for live music. It's really, I'd say it's the best in the world, in terms of. And so if there is, if you're here for 3 months or a year, I would really strongly advise you to get out there and there's so much going on. And I don't know whether there's still the pubs that we played in Camden. The Dublin Castle was our second ever show. 21st of February 1998. That's still going. That still has wonderful gig nights, and I think it's just trying to soak up as much music as you can, because there's no bad influences. There's so much to listen to, and so much creativity happening. Learn from each other and be open and receptive to all kinds of inspiration as and when it comes.
Thank you so much.
You're
I'll
welcome.
definitely do that.
Hello.
I'm Bianca. I'm
How you
a
doing?
lecturer in psychology here, so not a student.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You talked about really interesting concepts of dealing with challenges, such as the audition in the drumming that you didn't manage to get, the dynamic of the relationships of the group,
Yep.
the managers that you needed to kind of convince of the fact that we can do this, innovate ourselves out of the problem, and it worked with the response. Could you tell us and maybe inspire our students about, from a psychological perspective, what's the mindset that you might need to cultivate as a famous person, as a person that needs to push?
Yeah.
And how did you overcome the biggest challenge that you had?
Resilience, I suppose. That kind of. I think we have a self-belief. We know what we did. From the very first rehearsal, really, when we started making music together, there was a feeling like we know that this is something that is meaningful and it's something that we want to pursue. So I'm sort of hesitant to try and give up too much advice, because we had it. So many things went our way, and by chance, and riding your luck sometimes is as powerful as having a plan and being open to different things. I think when we were young, first few records we had were very sort of closed minds about what we wanted to do and what we thought the sort of where our end goal was. But what we've realized as we've grown up is that the strength you get from collaboration and from meeting people and talking about things and playing music with people who have different opinions and who have different strengths and different experiences, I guess, and trying to be adaptable. I think just being resilient, being adaptable, and being communicative. I think those are the things that we've benefited from, and those things that have helped us to get where we are.
Hey. I'm gonna be real original and ask 2 questions, but you only have to answer one.
Okay.
So this is the first question. What do you think makes music music? Is it an intrinsically human experience? Because you mentioned the energy that feeds you from the shows. So I guess tied to that, do you think AI can make music? And then my second question, if there was a Coldplay biopic, who would you like to play you?
Okay. Well,
answer only one.
Oh, well, I'm definitely taking the second one. Right. Biopic, gosh. I mean, generic bald guy with beard. So let's go for, I don't know, Jason Statham. You know, I think he'd make a good drummer. Thank you. Sorry for dodging that first question.
I just want to first of all say, like, thank you so much for just the positive impact that your band has had, like, on the whole world. Like, you have such a global reach. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
So my question is kind of from the business perspective. So earlier you were talking about the data that goes into making your music and about the tour, like what will work with the tour and the stadiums and everything. But then also I feel like your band is so innovative and you've done things that have never been done before. So what's your opinion on the line between using data and knowing what works to then being creative and doing something that's never been done before and taking those risks?
Well, I guess it's about what, for us, we're kind of hippies, really. It's about what feels right. And I think, as I said before, it is easy to be swamped by data and information, and that clearly has amazing applications for things that can genuinely make material differences in people's lives, medicine, education, incredible applications for that kind of stuff. I think that where it's got to feel right, that's the thing that maybe to slightly touch on your question. It's very hard to manufacture something that feels. We all know when something feels right. And it's different for everyone. Everyone has different things that really connect to them. So I don't know. I think it's just about. It sounds a bit of a cliche to say, sort of trust your instincts, but for us, that's really been our guiding force. It's like, if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right. And that's, again, being part of a four-person democracy. It means that we have, there are some times when we disagree about things, and we have to find a solution that works for everyone. So if it feels right, then it probably is right.
I had one question about a specific song.
Yeah.
The song Sparks, can you explain, because I saw you guys at the Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
There was a lot of emotion when you sang that song. Did someone's heart break before you guys made the song?
Someone's heart broke many times in every song. I think that's basically it. That is, you've hit the nail on the head. What's amazing to me is that song, I mean, you guys, I don't want to hazard a guess as to how young most of you are, but that song, I'm sure, came out quite a long time before most of you were born, which is amazing now because it's big on TikTok, I gather.
Right.
And it's, some sort of soundtrack to kind of some sort of sad animal videos and things. but it's amazing to me that now one of the things that has changed significantly about music is that time doesn't seem to matter anymore. Newness doesn't exist anymore, or it can be applied to anything.
Oh boy, I think I'm the last question.
Okay, make it good.
It's really nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Trying to think of a good conclusion. I know you kind of touched on the future of the music industry and how in the modern time it's really hard for young artists and bands to break onto the scene. I was just going to ask, do you have any up-and-coming artists or bands that have been on your radar or your playlist that you're maybe you could pass on the torch to them, or just anything on your playlist?
Gosh, well, we always try and find interesting people to tour with, to support us. We think very, very carefully about the moment that the doors open until the moment that the last person has left the stadium. It's the whole flow of that, because it's upwards of 5 hours in terms of potentially people are watching for that long. So we like to think about the different sounds of voices that people are going to be hearing, and actually the recipe that we've come up with is we want to have a female singer before our band, because otherwise it's a bit too duty, So a lot of our favorite new singers are people that we've met and people that we've played on tour with. And I mean, we've been touring with this extraordinary singer called Eliana, and she's unbelievable. She has an extraordinary voice. She's so young, but I think she's 21, but she is the most extraordinary performer. She's so competent and confident. She opened for us, and we said, "Can you come everywhere with us, please?" Because she makes the show so much better. And she's obviously gained a lot of experience being on this tour with us for basically, I think it was kind of 2.5 years she's been with us. She sings on a couple of our songs. She comes on and guests. So she's probably the person who I would say she's going to be a megastar. And she has an extraordinary voice. She has a really interesting background. She's Chilean, Palestinian, but her voice is unbelievable. So that would be the person I would watch out for. Great question.
Will Calypso, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you all for coming out on a Thursday night. And if you want to, I think we'll spend a few minutes if anyone wants to come and say hello and get the questions asked that you didn't have a chance to ask from the audience. But thank you so much again. Really appreciated having you.